All right, this is the Painesville Township Board of Zoning Appeals special meeting calling to order at 5 o'clock on the 14th of September. We will forego the Pledge of Allegiance. And Rachel, if you would make the roll call of the members, please, just to see who's here for the record.
Oh, okay. I'm unmuted. Okay. Dave Zara.
Here.
Dave Lindrose.
Here.
Randy Van Buren, who is not here.
Okay.
Chairman.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
All right, let the record show that
Ken Sullivan, Rachel.
Yeah, Ken Sullivan is not here, absent.
Yeah. Okay.
Let the record show that Ken Sullivan and Randy Van Buren are not in attendance, that's all.
Okay.
Okay, Jeremy, I don't think we need to worry about swearing any witnesses in, and if we did, we would do it when we call the case.
Correct.
So at this point, we have case 20 BZA 26 and case 20 BZA 25, one being a request for a variance, one being for a conditional use permit. So I'll turn it over to Harley if you want to explain, Harley, where we are at this point. You're muted.
And you're muted. Yep.
Sorry, guys. The applicant, Dwayne Thomas, it was found that he was not licensed to sell new vehicles in the state of Ohio. And so I had informed him that without the ability to sell new cars, he wouldn't be able to do a new used car business. And so his conditional use permit hearing wouldn't be, it wouldn't end up in approval, and to save him some money, it would be best to withdraw the application in order to receive a partial refund on his fees, which he did. I also reached out to the property owner who applied for a variance on behalf of Mr. Thomas's conditional use permit application, and the property owner, Kevin Mobasseri, I believe. Mobasseri, thank you, Rich, has just sent me an email withdrawing his variance application.
Okay. So with that, we don't need to do any voting or anything. They've been withdrawn. And Rich, you might want to give a little history on what's going on with this, the piece of property that's there. The way I see it, it used to just be a B3 district. And now we've got this gateway that's replaced the B3, which kind of limits the area of that business to 3 acres minimum. They had 0.7. And I got a feeling the trustees were they didn't want to see something like this coming on the Gateway Avenue coming into Painesville Township. Or in Painesville.
Well, two things. I am perfectly willing to share some of the history that I'm aware of on this property and this district. But I think I got a message that somebody else signed in by the name of Eric Walter.
Eric Walter, yeah, I see that.
Is Eric Walter interested in commenting on this case?
I think he's muted.
Just so you know, sir, if you're using Google Chrome, to the left of the meet.google.com address, there's a lock icon. Chances are you need to share microphone permission with your browser in order for us to hear you correctly, because right now you were talking and we didn't hear you there. Otherwise, it's under your settings on the white bar on the bottom, dots to the right, and then you'll see the settings in there. It would appear he is rapidly restoring microphone access as we watch.
Still don't hear him.
Could use a chat function.
It does look like he's trying to restore it really quick. He's giving us the 1 moment sign there. Okay, additionally, one last option that you do have is to use your phone. If you, for dial-in for audio while you can remain in the video, if you look on the white bar at the bottom of this screen, you'll notice that there are, again, the 3 dots, and then, okay, he is going to dial in instead. Okay, never mind. I'm going back to silent. You guys go ahead and lead the discussion as you like. If he was relevant to the case, take note. I'm sure he's rapidly dialing back into the meeting right away, so if it's worthwhile to wait, you might want to wait a moment, but either way, I'm going quiet.
Okay.
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. All right, yeah, I'm Eric Walter. I just got retained a little bit ago. I'm the attorney for Mr. Mobasari. So I'm just attending to see what is happening. It's my understanding from my client that the wrong variance was given to him to fill out. And so I didn't see any reason. I am interested to hear what your take on the use of the property has been, because it's been Cleveland Motor Cars. Mr. Mobasari still has his license to sell cars. So, Jason, I sent you an email earlier. Didn't have a chance to connect with you, so maybe you and I can talk. I just want to make sure no action's being taken on this tonight.
Who are you addressing to, Mr. Walter? Walter?
Well, that was everybody, but Jason Hartzell, I believe, is. I sent an email to the township attorney earlier today.
Yeah, we did receive an email, and this is Jeremy Eric. I know we haven't talked officially. I did receive an email from him today. Weren't able to get back to him this day out, but the last understanding we have is that the applicant has withdrawn the application.
Well, and am I wrong in that the wrong form was filled out?
That I don't know.
I mean, that's what the withdrawal is based on. Is that I'm just going on what the client told me, was that the wrong form was given to him to fill out. So, having just gotten.
I can speak to that. This is Harley DeLeon. I can speak to that if the board so wishes.
Sure, go ahead, Harley.
Okay, so I was contacted initially by Dwayne Thomas. He submitted a zoning use compliance application. Hold on, I'm just parking here. He submitted a zoning use compliance application for auto servicing in conjunction with used car sales. I informed him at the time that we received his application that we do not permit used car sales in our B3 zoning district, and that used car sales are only permitted in the B3 district in conjunction with new car sales. And at that time, he informed me that he would be selling both new and used cars. I then proceeded to instruct him on how to apply for a conditional use permit for that use. And on his conditional use permit application itself, it does say new plus used car sales. I then informed them that the minimum area requirements for that conditionally permitted use of new and used car sales in an integrated business wasn't met on that parcel, and then spoke with Kevin and informed him of the area requirements and our minimum requirements, and he proceeded to submit an application for variance from our area requirements that our minimum area requirements that we require for new and used car sales. So I'm not sure who had the misunderstanding, if it was Kevin with his tenant, but his tenant made it perfectly clear to me, as well as in his application, that he is a new and used car dealer. Ultimately, Mr. Dwayne Thomas was not able to provide his new dealer license number issued by the state of Ohio, and he was also unable to furnish a franchise agreement with a major manufacturer to sell new cars. And I asked him again in a long email thread whether or not he was legally allowed to sell new cars, and that is when it was revealed that he was only licensed to sell used cars in the state of Ohio. And I informed him that it would probably be best for him to withdraw his application so he could be issued a partial refund on the fees that he paid for his conditional use permit. This morning, I received a phone call from Kevin. Is it
Kevin.
Cunningham? Kevin Cunningham?
Mobassery.
Well, there's
Mobassery.
Kevin
Mobassery,
Mobassery, and then
yeah.
there's Kevin Callahan from Hannah Commercial Real Estate, as well as Dwayne Thomas. And apparently somewhere there was a miscommunication about Kevin's understanding of what his applicant was stating he could and could not do and what his intended use of the property was. But every conversation I had with Dwayne was about new and used car sales. So ultimately, I informed Kevin Mobassery as well that it would be in his best interest to withdraw the application to receive refund on the fees.
And I want to thank you, Harley. I just want to make it clear, I do not represent the tenant. They have a potential lease. I represent the landowner, which is really, it's a company that he and his brother, meaning Mobassery, own. So I don't represent the tenant. We're just trying, like I said, I got retained literally 3 hours ago, and I'm not up to speed on any of this. So I just wanted to chime in and make sure nothing was done this evening before I can have a chance to talk with Township Council, who I've worked with in other matters. We've got a great relationship, I think, going forward. So if we can just slow this train down a little bit, we got rid of one of your other nightmares and tucked that away very well. So like I said, being retained 3 hours ahead, I can do a lot in court with a question from a judge that I don't know, but I don't have my arms around your new zoning code at this point. I do have it printed off to look at this evening.
And in addition, there would be no action taken this evening because Kevin Mobassery has withdrawn his application as well as of maybe 4:45 p.m. this evening via email. And he has expressed his interest in applying for a use variance on his property.
Right, and then that will give me time to talk to him to kind of educate him as to what he has to do.
Good. Yeah, I think that sounds like a good idea.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Mr.
Eric,
Walker,
if you do want to talk, I'm free tomorrow afternoon. I apologize not getting back to you today.
No, you don't have to apologize. I get it. We're
Yeah.
apparently we're deemed essential, which is the first time in 25 years an attorney in my profession been called essential. So I've been called a lot of other things, but not essential.
But yeah, my availability tomorrow afternoon, the rest of the week's a lot better. So if you talking to your
just give me a
client, need to
ring.
reach out, just give me a holler.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
So we really don't need to adjourn this meeting because we never really had a formal meeting, but I guess we can.
Well,
Rick, you were going to give us a little history on this property. Why don't you continue?
okay. Oh God. Okay. Here's the thing. Back in 1990, Painesville Township made a decision to require that used car sales be permitted in conjunction with and integrated with new car sales. And they decided to make that a permitted use by conditional use permit only in the B3 zoning district. With that in mind, I'm not sure exactly how in 2008, which is 18 years after that decision, Cleveland Motor Cars was allowed to even file an application for a conditional use permit. But they did. They were granted a conditional use permit. It continued in effect until 2013. It was a 5-year permit. It was renewed without a public hearing, I believe. In 2013, it expired in the month of August in 2018. It has been an expired conditional use permit for over 2 years. There were problems if an application had been filed for a renewal of this conditional use permit. I would have been forced to make the Board of Zoning Appeals aware of 2 violations of the conditions of the original conditional use permit, in which case the board would have had the opportunity to call a public hearing or to disregard the complaints against the property and renew the permit. However, no application for renewal for the expiration date of August 13th, 2018 was ever filed by the applicant, Progressive Equity Investments, on behalf of Cleveland Motor Cars, their business trade name. So, you know, I'm kind of perplexed. I understand the problem and predicament that family businesses undergo when the head of a family takes ill and can no longer function in the same capacity that the family has been accustomed to having them function in. But you know, at the same time, the world doesn't stop when any one of us becomes incapacitated. There was ample time, ample opportunity for the conditional use permit to be at least applied for, to be renewed. In the meantime, in trying to understand all the complexities involving this particular situation, what I can gather is that Painesville Township, as a jurisdictional entity, exercised its zoning power, zoning rights, back as far as 1990, recognizing that within a 2-mile stretch, they had 3 new car dealerships who had used cars on their property, 4 or 3 at the time grandfathered used car dealerships, 3 auto parts stores, 1 car wash, 2 car washes actually, one of them since went defunct, and a quick oil change facility, which are all automotive related. And history in zoning shows that when you have a high concentration of automotive intensive industries in a confined district, that district takes away the competitive advantage or the opportunity for the local buying public to shop for other services. In other words, if automotive comes in heavy, they're there to stay and nothing else can exist, because the average typical shopper does not want to be necessarily associated with the heavy automotive uses. Now, we are limited in how much main corridor commercial acreage we can provide along the Route 20 or Menor Avenue corridor. We already have a heavy concentration of automotive uses. If a current automotive use goes out of business voluntarily or maybe with an excuse, um, like a very ill main player in the ownership, we can understand that, but there is still an obligation on the part of the township to restore balance to the zoning and the uses on its main commercial corridor to protect the interest of the residents adjoining the commercial corridor. So we have an unfortunate circumstance where a business was properly permitted. That permit expired. No attempt was made to renew the permit, and now they are coming before the board to get some kind of restoration to their previous rights, which were theirs, and are no longer available to them. And it's difficult. I personally, I want to commiserate with a family who has to go through the death of a prominent member, and especially under the circumstances. But at the same time, the township is trying to move forward. Our main problem on Mentor Avenue is that when the state of Ohio made the decision to widen the road, it had some immense long term, and when I mean long term, I'm saying 100 years, 150 years benefit to the general community. But what it did short term was to render a lot of properties on Menor Avenue, which had previously enjoyed some usefulness and contribution to the local economy, kind of useless because their front yards were taken away from them. It's one of those things that as government goes on and makes its decisions, the state decided they had to widen Menor Avenue, and it hurt some physical characteristics of many of the B3 commercial properties on Menor Avenue. Okay, I got rid of that call. It really hurt the viability of a lot of businesses because it took their front yards away. This property at 1650 Menor Avenue, even though I truly believe the township would like to work with the Mobassery family to try to achieve the best end result for the use of this property, it presents some problems. When the original conditional use permit was issued in 2008, it was highlighted that one of the conditions would be to recognize the 50-foot required buffer in the rear of the property, being next to a residential property. In actuality, that property to the rear of 1650 Menor Avenue is zoned B3. So under our current code, because we made a change since then, under our current code, there is no 50-foot buffer required in the rear of 1650 Minner Avenue. So that would be something that we did as a township that was beneficial to the property owners at 1650 Minner Avenue. However, even though they were advised that their conditional use permit had expired, they had an opportunity to renew it, they did not make any effort to contact the township to renew that conditional use permit. And, you know, let's face it, when you are trying to reduce the saturation of a particular industry along your major commercial corridor, if you don't take advantage of an opportunity to do so, you're not doing your job as a township within the confines of your comprehensive plan. I believe that if this application had not been withdrawn, our obligation would have been to heavily consider not granting these variances. I'm done.
No way. Rich, is it customary to, back in 2018, is it customary to send out notification that their conditional use permit is expired or is coming up for renewal?
Not unless an application is received. And no application was ever received for this property.
I guess my question is, if somebody has a conditional use permit and they forget that, hey, their time is up, they're not getting a notification from the township that, hey, your conditional use permit's up in 6 months, you better reapply.
Well, we are not mind readers. I mean, if when we issue the conditional use permits, everybody understands what the legal obligations are, and if you want to renew, there's an expiration date.
I understand.
And we even take the approach that even if it's a little bit after the expiration date, we try to give the applicants a notice that, hey, look, you know, we're not trying to play like we're mighty on the hill or anything. You have a permit that expired. If you give us an application pretty soon, we will consider it just like it was filed in proper time. We sent a letter out to Progressive and never got a response. So our assumption was that they were not interested in renewing the application. And shortly after that, for sale signs, for lease signs began to appear on the property, and some of the inventory of, you know, like tables, chairs, desks, and so forth, visible from the front window, began to disappear from the property. And the inventory of used cars disappeared. So my assumption was there were problems, and they did not want to continue into the same business that they had been permitted to do.
Okay. All right, Rich, thank you for that history. And Mr. Walter, I think you probably got enough information now, and you have the zoning resolution. There has been no action taken tonight on anything. You can go back to your client and see what he wants to do. Does that sound fair?
That sounds very fair. And there were other extenuating circumstances too that, again, I appreciate Mr. Constantine's recitation. There were some other tragedies that happened to that family other than, I mean, the death of the father was a big one, but there was another one to one of the partners of the company that was a pretty big blow as well that caused shock waves. And I'm not using that as an excuse, just an explanation. So there were some really serious things going on with the family. The wife of one of the members is trying to cope with things. So it's been kind of a hailstorm on them. So, one thing I do want to say is that I've been in that property. It is a huge garage. I mean, it's got bay doors in the back. I forget what it used to be before Mobasari's owned it, but it's suited for exactly what it was for. So let me match up with Jason and Jeremy. I'll talk to my client. By then I'll have 24 hours under my belt and be a little more up to speed and everything, and then we'll reassess.
Okay, sounds
I
good.
appreciate you letting me be part of the meeting tonight.
All right, Rachel, why don't you go ahead and let the record show that Randy Van Buren did check in here.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, anything else, folks? I think that's all we need. So we'll close this meeting at 5:34 p.m.
All right, thank you, everyone. And
Okay,
Jason and Jeremy, I'll be in touch tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good, Eric.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Have a good night.
All right, good night, everyone.
Night, y'all.
Night.
Night.